It's time for AggroChat, the official podcast of the Tales of the Agronaut blog and stalwart gaming community, where we talk about stuff and things, and the stuff about the things, and sometimes gaming. I'm Belghast, and let's start the show. Hey folks, it's that time again. Time for another episode of AggroChat. This is episode 417. Tonight I'm joined by Ammo.
Hello.
Ashgar.
Warning, opinions incoming.
Grace.
Happy New Year.
Kodra.
Expectation failed.
Ham.
Hello, Happy New Year.
And Thalen.
Expectation failed sounds like every show.
I mean, we're going to dash your hopes. I'm sorry. So we didn't record for 2 weeks. And also, we're changing the play. Traditionally, we do our Games of the Year show as like one giant marathon show that I crudely cleave in half and make 2 shows out of.
Because we're insane and don't plan things.
And this time, we're just going to record 2 normal weeks and just do half a show and half a show. So hopefully it works like that.
This should be much better because now we won't be completely exhausted by the games we all liked.
Exactly.
I still think this is way too well thought out to be us.
Yeah, no,
Accurate.
it's going to backfire somehow.
Yeah, like there'll be some glaring problem we didn't think of, clearly.
So basically, rundown of kind of what I attempted to do. Traditionally, I sort things in order of like, these things didn't have many people pick them. These things had lots of people pick them. And I kind of shuffled the deck so that we've got some of those short topics and some of the long topics in both episodes. We'll see if it ends up being like that.
If you're coming to hear what the AggroChat Game of the Year is, you are on the wrong podcast that doesn't exist.
Yeah. we have a Games of the Year show. I don't know how many there are, but there was a lot. Because this was a year where we all played lots of different things.
It's true.
Or at least we thought lots of different things were important. So, yeah, it's going to be a couple of long shows, I think. But let's get started. Digimon Survive. I would guess this is an Ash topic.
What gave that away?
Hey, I mean, you talked about it on the show when you were playing it last, so.
I mean, I suspect I'm the only person on the show who played this game at all. Digimon Survive, the long-awaited Digimon Tactics game, which turned out to be more of a visual novel than a tactics game. I think it was still quite good. This was an honorable mention for me. But it definitely disappointed a lot of people by being way more of a visual novel than anyone anticipated. It's still great. It's way darker than even most Digimon stories, which is saying something, but it's a fun time.
I really encourage everyone to just take a look at the cover art for this game, which really looks so weird. It is very much telling you, hey, you're getting into something a little bit different. It looks like you're the 2
Lo-fi and chill with Agumon.
Yeah, lo-fi and chill with Agumon. Like you're in a cafe, like making sad eyes at each other, but one of the people making sad eyes is Agumon, a tiny Tyrannosaurus.
Okay.
I don't know. I keep seeing the cover art when I am like on your Switch for some reason, and it makes me want to check this game out. But I think I am currently at my fill of tactics games that are a little too visual novel.
Oh boy.
So this one kind of surprised me that it only got an honorable mention. Pokemon Violet.
This was one of my picks, mostly because we didn't really talk about it much, and I mostly wanted to kind of briefly talk about the co-op because I dabbled in that, did a few sessions with some friends, and while there's still not a lot going on, it could probably be expanded on. We had a good amount of fun. We jumped on Discord and we did some Terra battles and we had some crazy sandwich disasters. So it was, it was a nice change of pace for something co-op to do with some buddies that, like, maybe if somebody who's not really into MMOs or can't really, get into MMOs or something, and it's not just, it was a nice change of pace, and we could just get on disc and screw around and try to do some shiny hunting and terror battles, and it was a good time. I enjoyed it. I hope they continue to expand on the co-op maybe in the future, because I think it could be kind of neat to have some more things to do. But it was fun. I enjoyed it.
I also have been playing this game. I really like it. It didn't really make my honorable mentions. It has some performance issues that are very obvious.
Yes.
But it's very fun, and I like this open world model for Pokemon. Like, that seems to be the thing. They've now done it. We'll talk more about Arceus later, but they've done it with Sword and Shield a little bit, and then Arceus, and now this. I'm really digging it.
Mm-hmm.
This next game I almost put on as an honorable mention, but I don't know who put it on there. TMNT Shredder's Revenge.
That was mine. It's so the entirety of me playing this game was one evening with Kodra and Ash and a couple of other local friends, and picked it up, downloaded it, got it rolling, ordered pizza because of course, and we're like, I don't know, 9 again. Like, I can't describe the game as a tour de force in any way, obviously, but like, it's just fun.
It's exactly like you remember the TMNT beat 'em up games felt as a kid.
Yes.
Yeah.
Like, it's exactly that. Because, like, I've played the heck out of this on the Steam Deck, and it's really good on a Steam Deck.
Yeah, it's just really fun. And it's important. It is one of those games that is the way you remember, not the way the game actually was.
Yeah, exactly.
Yep.
And so it's a lot more fun. It feels less random. It feels less quarter sucking. It just wants you to go in and play a beat 'em up and have a good time, and you do. Like, the different characters you can play, which are more than just the 4 turtles, all kind of feel different, sometimes very different. It's been a little while since I played 4-player co-op, like couch co-op, and that's just super fun. It looks gorgeous.
I was super on board with this because when I was, seeing information about it coming out, I found out that some of the folks that were behind Streets of Rage 4 worked on this as well. And Streets of Rage 4 was very much the same kind of thing where, like, it is exactly how you remember playing Streets of Rage back in the day, but it's in every way better. And, like, this is kind of the same thing. Like, this is, like, if you ever played Turtles in Time, like, this will feel like that game, just better, like, for a modern system, and prettier and more fluid, and, like, the controls are just so much better than they were back in the day. But they also feel like you remember the controls.
I just really appreciate that this game, like, lets me know, like, teaches me how to do all of the cool things I used to do in the arcade game, rather than it just being like something that occasionally happens. I feel like I actually can control my character a little bit. Maybe I do think that's better controls, not just me being older and more experienced at games.
Oh yeah, it is. Like, I've gone back and played Turtles in Time, also on the Steam Deck, just because I was curious, like, what that game would feel like. And yeah, no, this game is so much better in every way. Like, it just controls better. Air movement is way more predictable. But yeah, like, we need more games like this, honestly.
Yeah,
I want to throw more enemies at the screen.
Yeah,
Always fun.
I mean,
The
hey,
fact that they made that a mechanic in a boss fight is endlessly amusing to me.
Oh yeah, well, it was a mechanic of the boss fight in Turtles in Time. It just was miserable in Turtles in Time because you couldn't control when it happened.
Yeah.
And now it's just like, oh yeah, I can make that happen if I need to, and that feels great. Yeah, like, sure, was my entire interaction with this game like 4 or 5 hours in an evening? Yes. Was it 100% worth it? Also, yes.
Yeah, like, that doesn't degrade the experience.
It's also one of the few games I actually beat this year.
Another reimagining of a game, Trials of Mana.
So if you're paying attention, this game did not come out this year. I believe it came out in 2020, but maybe it came out earlier. I don't know. I definitely got it in 2020. But I finished it this year, and this is a amazing reimagining of a Mana series game. The original Trials of Mana is, I'm not going to call it a buggy mess, but it is a lot of things do not work as intended. It's less clunky than Secret of Mana. P.S. If you go back and play Secret of Mana, I think you will be surprised at how terrible it kind of feels. And unfortunately, the remake of Secret of Mana inherited its mechanics exactly. This game does not do that, and it is so much better for it. So yeah, I very much enjoyed playing this game. I played this game to completion 3 times this year. It's not very long, and I encourage you to play through multiple parties anyway. I recommend it if you haven't tried it.
So now we're getting into some of the ones that had multiple honorable mention votes. Guild Wars 2 End of Dragons. I was kind of surprised nobody main picked this one. I almost did, but not quite.
Very close. Yeah, it's like it. If I had 4 spots, it would have been one of my 4. And
right? Yeah.
I politely abstained.
And absolutely deserves it, because it's like I was already really enjoying Guild Wars 2 and had been back into it since I don't know when. And End of Dragons, like, Guild Wars 2 starts out rough, and then Heart of Thorns happens, and then the story just starts to get better and better and better, and then End of Dragons actually wrapped up that initial story arc well, and like, things have happened, characters have grown, the world has changed, and it all feels meaningful.
It really did stick the landing. I kind of forgot about that this game came out this year because it came out very early in the year. But it was an MMO that is wrapping up the story that it's been telling for 10 years, and it really does stick the landing in an interesting way.
As media has taught us recently, endings are hard, and this one is very good.
Yes. And then on top of that, it's an MMO that is monetized via purchases of cosmetics and stuff, and that doesn't feel bad.
Yeah.
It doesn't feel like it's trying to grab all of my money all of the time. It feels like it's like, hey, here's stuff. If you want to pay for some things, here's cool stuff. Think about it. And often I do, because, I don't know, adorable plushie mounts.
It also manages to capture probably one of my favorite moments in gaming this year, which was doing the Suwon fight for the first time, and just how much that experience managed to make me back in college doing raids for the first time, and this big epic scope that is not something you are necessarily going to win. You're trying to coordinate with probably 80 people, and just felt great pulling it off.
It's quite a fight, and yeah, that first time that you pull it off feels really good and really climactic.
This is definitely one of those things that I look at as I feel like I have lost something with the big raids, and the big zone sweeper bosses like this are kind of the they give me that feeling without all of the nonsense that would come with it. And I really like that.
Just in general, I really like the drop-in nature of the big moving part fights in Guild Wars 2. I've not gotten a successful Suwon. I did the story version, but I've not gotten a successful Suwon.
That's the thing, is you kind of can't just drop in on it. You kind of have to you do kind of have to be there from the start, and you need to be in a group that is yep, we're going to do Suwon, and we're going to recruit across a bunch of different zones and try and get people to show up, because we need a lot of people, and we need to do a bunch of coordination checks, and then it's time for an actual factual, really ludicrous boss fight. Props to the commanders out there who must love raid leading, because they decide to pug raids every day.
and they pay 300 gold to be able to do it.
Yeah, there's that too. This is an MMO with a community that is, for the most part, remarkably not non-toxic. Like, it is rare that I feel like I need to even mute a person in Guild Wars 2.
I do feel like the game specifically made some steps toward in that direction this year also.
Yes. But yeah, it's a really just well-made, well put together game that I continue to play and will continue to play. I don't know for how long. As long as it's around, probably.
Well, and like one of the things that I really dig about this is even if story's not your thing, like this expansion added so many neat little systems, from the Jade bot to the skiff to the all the things that you can do in the new zones. That it's just kind of fun for the things that it added as well, and that's kind of been a hallmark of Guild Wars 2 for a while, as each expansion adds some really cool mechanical things to it. And gunblades are cool.
Blades are cool.
Okay,
And
this one
minor spoilers for a nearly year-old story at this point, but Troy and Cass finally got to get married, and that's great.
that's the highlight of the expansion, to be honest.
Possibly the single best relationship in a video game at all. I don't know. Certainly in an MMO.
Well, you get to experience quite the arc of them, and now we get to actually
we get to really experience the whole thing.
We get to really experience the whole thing, because now you can actually play season 1.
You can go in to season 2 content not just hating Braum.
Yeah, you can now go into season 2 understanding why Braum is such an idiot and actually feeling kind of bad for him.
Yeah, I'm very happy that the story hole has been closed. Like, that's kind of a footnote on this in itself, is that, oh, hey, Living World Season 1 came out this year, too. The re-release of Living World Season 1. Okay, this one surprised me because I kind of expected more people to have picked it. Elden Ring.
Yeah, this was mine. So, was it last year that Jedi Fallen Order was on my list? Maybe the year before?
Pretty sure it was last year.
Elden Ring proves that From Software can learn things. And I feel like that's important. And like, it's a Souls game, but it's more accessible than any of the previous Souls games. And that's huge. Like, it makes the game interesting to experience. It makes the game interesting, like varied, and have better feeling pacing. It's gorgeous. It does a really, really good job of showing you interesting places and doing just fantastic and fantastically weird environmental storytelling. And yeah, it's hard. It's a Souls game. I think that it's not without its flaws. Like, I think that if it had decent co-op and not the terrible kludge that it currently has, it would be a lot more people's. It would be on a lot more people's list. But it's good. It's just it's got a broadly coherent story as Souls games go. And like, I don't know, I think it's more accessible, it's more interesting. It seems to want you to have fun with it in a way that, I mean, I played Sekiro start to finish, but Sekiro can trivially lose you in the first 10 minutes. If it's like, hey, you must be this tall to ride, and you aren't, it's like, nope, all right, you're dead. Figure it out or leave. And that's, a problem that I have with Souls games.
I didn't put this on my list, but I was thinking about it. Honestly, don't feel I've put enough time in it. I've only put about 30 hours into it. I'm not that far in it, but I've been having fun. I had fun with what I did play, is what I would say about this game. And yeah, it definitely seems like they are trying to be like, make a game that is more friendly to people wanting to actually play their game.
I will admit that they have learned lessons. I just don't think they've learned enough lessons yet.
Oh, no doubt.
They have a long ways to go before they really make a game I want to play.
Yeah, no, I completely reasonable. But But that they're learning, I think, is an important thing because it's also sort of a signal to the rest of the industry and everybody else who's starting to make games like this. I think I commented on Jedi Fallen Order that the best Souls game isn't a Souls game, and Elden Ring is trying to retake that crown, which is good. Competition is good, and different developers taking different spins on the same idea and inspiring one another is good. Now they just need to work on their UI.
It's bad. It's real bad.
Oh, it's terrible. It's unconscionable. It's unconscionably terrible. Like, that's not like a design decision. It's just not good.
And like, I've wondered for the longest time if that's just a design aesthetic, because what was it? Babylon's Fall? Is that the name of the game? It's got a similarly awful UI style that reminds me of Soul games.
Yeah, but that game clearly we shouldn't be talking about that game on a Games of the Year show.
No, but it has the same problems UI wise.
I cargo cult. Just cargo culting there. And honestly, like, the thing that I like most about Elden Ring is that it demonstrates that they're not cargo culting themselves, which is good.
It definitely has me wanting to maybe play it with some different builds, though. I might restart with a more faith-based build because I like fire.
Yeah, I actually had a thought on that one, which I wasn't sure if I was going to take the time for, but it does a thing that I feel like most of the previous Souls games only do for the very hardcore, and I think is super important for games that let you pick a build. Your build becomes coherent surprisingly quickly. Like, what you are doing, you don't have to play for 20 hours before you can cast a magic spell and hope that the magic spell is one that works for you. Like, you get options relatively quickly and can get a taste of the different play styles relatively quickly, which means that I felt like I was making more informed decisions while I was playing, which meant that I was learning from the game and making choices based on my experiences in the game and not reading a guide and following it, which has not been the case in previous Souls games. And honestly, a lot of other games I've played this recently. It's like, look up a build versus,
oh yeah,
hey, I actually figured this out, and I happened to stumble backwards upon one of the most brokenly overpowered builds in the game before they patched it. But it happened organically, and it happened organically, and it happened as a result of things that happened to me in the game, which I also thought was interesting. Like, I got mimic trapped. It was miserable. Getting out of the terrible place they put you in when you get mimic trapped and teleported into an awful part of the map sucked. However, the reward I got for surviving that experience was transformative. And that ultimately felt really cool. It's like I had access to some stuff that I just wouldn't have had otherwise. And that kind of shaped the way I played the rest of the game in a big way.
Yeah, my only exception to that is I did have to look up where to get a sword for my build.
Yeah.
But yeah, they definitely did. It's definitely the best Souls game they've ever made.
Let me play it co-op like Borderlands, and they'll have another entry on this top list.
There is a mod for it that does that, apparently.
It should just be built in.
It should just be built in. It should just be built in. I agree.
Like, if Capcom can cobble together a not amazing multiplayer experience with Monster Hunter World or the Monster Hunter series in general, Souls games can do that too. Like, it can at least be that good.
Also, extra special bonus points for the most artful griefing of PvP griefers I've ever seen in a video game. Because if you want to grief people in that game in multiplayer, like, yes, it's dumb that if you have multiple people, then you can get invaded. It's good that you can't if you don't, but it's also funny to me that you are 100% always going to be outnumbered if you invade somebody. And man, it's funny watching people cry about that.
Like, you can invite people, right?
Yeah.
Like, I'm pretty sure there's a way to opt into 1v1 PvP, but the only way you can grief people is if you are willing to go 2v1 or 1v2.
You have to opt into an unfair fight if you want to PvP somebody who's not actively looking for it. And should that be a mechanic? Probably not. It doesn't really add anything to the game, but it did give me some really delightful Reddit and Twitter thread reading.
Or you can just play an offline game and never have to deal with it at all.
Yeah, which also works great.
And the nice thing is you don't even have to play fully offline. You just can't play with other like people in your world, but you can still get their notes.
Yeah, I turned offline so I wouldn't ever see the notes as well, because like those annoyed the hell out of me. Because there's so many places where like it's hard to interact with things because there's so many notes.
It's definitely a weird game, and if you like games telling weird stories, you might also like this. There's definitely a moment that I got to about 15 hours in where you finally meet the people in charge of the organization you're working with, and wow, that's a weird moment.
So on this next game, I am going to remind our listeners that our Games of the Year show are the games that are important to us in a given year. And not necessarily what came out in a given year, but
Correct.
But Fallout 76 has gotten real good since we last touched it.
Yeah. And there is a new season that just started a few weeks ago. So like that's something new.
Because they release seasons about every 3 months or so, don't they?
I think so. Yeah.
Something similar to that cadence.
But yeah, there's a big Nuka-Cola themed carnival out in the ash heap now, and it's pretty fun. But yeah, Fallout 76 is a game that I never bothered to play when it first came out because it sounded kind of dreadful, like having to worry about other players wanting to try and kill me, and there not being any human NPCs, and it did not sound like what I wanted out of a Fallout game. But thanks to Bell talking it up, I decided to finally try it out a few months ago, and I can't speak for what it was, back when it first came out, but as of right now, it's what I want out of a Fallout game. It's Fallout in West Virginia. You can stumble upon like weird scenarios out in the wild. You can talk to interesting people, get in big fights with giant, super mutants and death claws, and now a incredibly giant mole creature that pops up out of the ground. It's just really good.
I've got to be honest though, like other than the lack of NPCs, the game at launch was way better than people gave it credit for.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I also think that it's improved a lot and added
like it
really
is
great little items.
It has really improved. But like the same's true with a lot of long-running live service games now. Like there's a lot of them that have improved over time. They've figured out what the magical formula that their players want is and then honed in on it. And Fallout's definitely, like, Fallout has a pretty dedicated fan base. Or Fallout 76 has a pretty dedicated fan base. There's lots of people that play it as their primary game. And I mean, it's a fun little experience.
I mean, honestly, the thing that pushed me away from it more than anything was that they, made it out to be, like sandbox PvP when they initially launched it. And that's the last thing that I want. And as it turns out, I don't know about at the time that it launched, but right now that's not what it is at all. Like not even remotely. I have not once had anybody try to engage in PvP with me, apart from the one time that I accidentally got myself wanted and went and stood somewhere until somebody killed me. That's the only time.
Yeah.
But if you're real concerned about that, you can just play offline. And
I mean, if you pay them a monthly subscription,
I guess that's true. Yeah.
But honestly, most of the time I'm playing in normal adventure mode because there's no downside to having other people around.
There are quite a few games that could learn from the model.
Star Ocean: The Defined Force.
This one is one of my picks this year. I'm a big fan of the Star Ocean games, so I was pretty excited when this one was announced because I was hoping it would be good. and I was very happy with it. Compared to the other games, it has a fair amount of like basically kind of quality of life kind of updates. Like you can save pretty much everywhere. You don't have to have a specific spot for saving. You pretty much get fast travel right at the start. So just nice stuff where the game feels like it respects your time. Like you don't have time for a 60-hour RPG these days kind of thing. That being said, at the start of the game, there is a bit of back and forth thing where you do have to do a bit of running, but after a while, the pacing kind of evens out for the story, and it's not so bad. And it's a pretty fun story. My husband actually liked it a lot. It's probably one of the better Star Ocean ones. It's got the nice mix where it starts out with fantasy, and then it moves to like the sci fantasy part later on. It's got some kind of nice twists near the end. I wouldn't say it's totally predictable, but it's not like, earth shaking. It's just fun, and it has fun with it. I feel like this cast is pretty good, especially compared to especially the last two games. But yeah, the cast is nice. They all kind of interact nicely with each other. The private actions, which is a thing that happens in the towns where your party breaks up and you can go interact and have little stories and conversations with your party members, is back, and most of those are pretty fun and interesting with the different characters. So that's a nice Star Ocean staple that I'm was very happy to see was back. The combat is quite fun. I wasn't sure what I would think about it at first, but I like it quite a bit. Um, One of the other kind of Star Oceany staples has been like item creation or their crafting system, and this has item creation also, but it's a lot easier, I would say, than like some of the older games that goes really crazy with the item creation. And even fairly early on in the game, you can make some items that kind of make the game really crazy easy, or just like you get items that give you enhanced experience where you just like stack it on your weapons and your armor, and you can level up crazy fast in this game.
Interesting. Is there is it still like JRPG style stuff, or
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's more actiony combat, so it's more like the Tales and stuff games and stuff like that. Like Star Ocean's always been pretty much actiony combat, where basically what they do in this game is for each button you can have a set of like 3 chain combos, they call it. So you just like tap, like your triangle button 3 times, and it'll kind of go through a set of actions that you have mapped onto it already. So you can have all of your buttons doing that, or if you do a longer press, you can also set something on there. You can put items in your combos. So if you want to like use like a strength boost or something right before you do a big combo, I didn't worry about stuff like that, but I had like blueberries as a healing item. So early on in the game, I would toss that onto a button so I could do a quick heal. So I thought that was kind of cool. I thought that was fun. You can kind of get, some cool combos going, or if you're using their magic classes, you can kind of string together some magic casts, or you could just do like a series of really big heavy casts in a row. In fact, my husband and I were kind of amused of one of the first magic users you get in the game can learn a skill which was one of like the boss's skills in Star Ocean 2, and it's really kind of ridiculously powerful once you level it up and reduce like his casting time on it. So you can kind of have fun with stuff like that. Another thing that this game has that kind of goes back to Star Ocean 2 is it has 2 protagonists, and they each have their own slightly different games. So you pick one at the start. You either play as Ray, who he's the spacey character. He basically works for his family, like cargo hauling in space, and he gets stranded on the planet. The other main character is Leticia. She is a princess who is out to find something, and of course they run into each other right at the start of the game, and so he agrees to help her, so she'll help him. And there are a couple points in the story where the two separate, and of course, depending on which side you're playing, you're going to see what that protagonist is doing at the time. And once you end the game, and if you want to start over and play as the other character, then you get to see what they were doing in that time. So that was kind of nice.
Did you play through both stories?
Yes. It was kind of amusing. We did Leticia first. So there were a couple moments where it's kind of like, huh, okay, that was weird. What happened there? And so then when you play as Ray on the next one, it's like, oh, that's what happened. So it was kind of cute to see how they tied stuff like that together. In fact, I would probably recommend playing Leticia first and then Ray, because I felt like the payoff for some of those little moments was more interesting that way.
Yeah.
This is a game that I picked up but did not have a lot of time to actually get into.
Yeah, I was
very pleased by the demo.
Yeah.
Especially since I just couldn't get into Star Ocean 5.
I had the same problem and didn't pick this up, but now I might.
I highly enjoyed it, and I did not enjoy Star Ocean 5 very much. It was okay, but honestly, like if you asked me stuff about it now, I wouldn't really be able to remember. So I was not a fan of some of the characters. I don't know. I didn't enjoy it very much. It was okay, but definitely would be the lowest pick on my list of Star Ocean games. This one is probably going to be up there with probably Star Ocean 2 for me. But yeah, I like how the game can go by pretty fast. You can put as much time into grinding as you want. You can have fun making crazy stuff and item creation to either make your characters super strong or get lots of XP in a hurry. In fact, there is one battle in the game where you can basically just grind out all day if you want, because it's a non-ending wave of enemies until you leave the area. So if you really like trying to grind out levels and have a lot of XP items on at the time, you can just sit there for a while and get to level 100 or higher. In fact, the max level in this game is 255.
Star Ocean.
Yes,
And
exactly.
That sounds like a challenge.
It's honestly not as bad as it sounds. It can be. I actually didn't get my characters to 255 until like the post game stuff. But again, by that point, you have unlocked synthesis, which is the final item creation thing, where you can take the factors from items that you make and put them onto specific items. So you can craft like an item that will have like 30% XP gains or so on and so forth, or just various fun things like that. You just slap it on a character, go into battle, and watch them get like a level every time they kill something.
I would assume that system is so that you can speed up your replay now that you kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the second time went a lot faster than the first time. I wouldn't even say it's like a super long game. I forgot to make a note of how long my times were on both games, but you can skip the cutscenes you'd already seen, so you can just get to like the new stuff right away. Each side has one optional recruitable character, but the game makes it pretty obvious, like, hey, you should go talk to this person. They might want to, help you out with something or whatever. So you get them both pretty late game, but they're different and they're kind of fun. It's definitely obvious who they are. Most of the characters too have fairly unique combat styles, so you can pretty much you can swap around freely in combat out of 4 characters, and it's very fast and fluid. And so you can pretty much play, whoever you like or whatever style you like the best. Probably one of my favorite things in this game is the healer is a bit different. She's not your white mage with a cane and stuff like that. She heals with a magic bell, which is kind of cute. So she rings her bell and she sings songs or whatever. So I thought she was fairly unique. She was pretty funny. So she can either attack with sonic damage or heal you with her songs. She was a pretty fun, cute little character.
Now, so when you have a party, can you swap between characters and you like still have 4 people out, or are you only like having one out at a time?
You have 4 at a time. Actually, that's another thing. This game, if somebody dies in battle, you can just go into the menu, take out the dead character, and slap in a live character right in the battle. Like this game just kind of lets you do stuff like that. It's just like, here, we want you to just, play this game and have fun doing it. So just, here you go. Just go ahead and swap out your characters in the middle of the battle is fine. Go ahead. But I thought it was a lot of fun. I felt like the game, for the most part, actually respected my time. You know, like you can do fairly short play sessions and just do a little bit of story or do a little bit of leveling up, do a few side quests, and just, yeah, take it at your own pace. And it was just a fun, pleasant experience. And I was very happy, and I feel like it was probably definitely the best Star Ocean game for quite a while. I will say too, there are definitely a couple flaws. I know a lot of people comment on like the models in the game. They obviously did not have a super huge budget, and they really try hard, and there are definitely some cutscenes that, you know, are noticeable that it's not super quality, but the story that they're trying to tell, they're pretty, you know, earnest about it. And I don't know, I just, after a while, I got used to it and it didn't really bother me, the models. And probably the only other thing that really drove me nuts a few times is sometimes the text size was really stupid small.
Is the story more like event driven or character driven?
I would say character driven, because I would say characters, and then it starts character driven and then kind of goes more into event driven, I would say.
Okay. So big events happen once you get to know the characters.
Yes, I would say the last part of the game, once it gets to like the spacey sci fantasy stuff, is probably a bit more event driven. But yes, if you've played Star Ocean games in the past or you've been curious about trying them, this would definitely be a good spot, because like all other Star Ocean games, you don't really need prior knowledge. They do refer to a few characters and like organizations. In this one, like, of course, there's the Pan-Galactic Federation, but the game pretty much explains everything you need to know as things pop up, and it's just, you know, it's well explained. You're not gonna have to worry about missing out on stuff.
It shouldn't be a surprise to you that there's a prime directive and you're about to violate it.
Yes, exactly. Well, except Ray is not a member of the Pan-Galactic Federation, so he doesn't really
Interesting.
care about that. Yes, no, he is not. There is, I mean, of course, this is a Star Ocean game, so there is a Kenny in here, and she cares about it, but you won't meet her for a while. But Ray doesn't really care too much. He just wants to find the rest of his crew because, you know, ship exploded, they're stranded. He wants to find his crew and get out of there. And, you know, things don't really work out, you know, that well right away. But yeah, good times. My husband and I greatly enjoyed it.
So this next pick is mine, and it's a little bit of an odd pick from what we normally talk about, but I think Wordle was a very significant game this last year, especially from the social interaction standpoint. Twitter was like, there was a period on Twitter where you could not look at Twitter without seeing Wordle pictograms float across your screen.
Yep.
And like, I played this for quite a while. My wife still plays it every day. I basically played until I lost, and then I stopped playing, and I was keeping a streak for a really long time. And so long as I had a streak going, I felt like I had to keep going. But I mean, it's been interesting to see the crossover between people who play with Wordle and people who don't normally consider themselves gamers.
It's a really fun game too, and like it leads to a lot of creative thinking.
And I think it's kind of a gateway drug for a lot of other puzzle type games. You know, because there's certainly a bunch of Wordle derivatives, but I've seen folks move out into other things like Sudoku and things like that after getting used to Wordle.
Yeah, first you do Wordle, and then you learn about crosswords, and then it's like, you know what? There's Sudoku and all sorts of pencil puzzles.
Yeah, structured puzzle games are kind of fun.
I was amused at some of the offshoot hurdles.
Yeah.
So I liked a few of those.
I never looked up to see how it worked, but there was also a Rogle. I don't know what you did, but it had really interesting pictograms that people posted every day. I think you were trying to like sneak out of a dungeon or steal treasure or something like that.
I didn't see that one. That sounds cute. I played Wordle and I've coupled the hurdles quite a bit until I changed computers and I lost all of my cached data. So sad.
Yeah, your streak is dead now. And that was a frustrating point too, because like I was sometimes playing on a mobile device and sometimes playing on a computer,
Yeah.
and it didn't keep track of any of the stuff together. So I had to just know that I had a streak alive. And now there's a game show that's essentially Wordle
Oh dear.
that has like RuPaul as the MC.
Wow. I have not heard of this.
I forget the name of it. Yeah, I think it's on CBS, but it's literally just Wordle. Like they're calling it something else, but it's Wordle.
Is it titled "The Most Early 2020s Game Show Possible"?
But it's I will say, from my perspective, it's been really fun, like getting into the puzzle community and seeing how these various things have just been swelling the membership of like the Sudoku and puzzle setting community.
It's been really kind of cool to watch opinions change, because when Wordle first came on the scene, I kind of saw a little bit of gatekeeping, but that quickly went away. I think more folks embraced that, oh hey, this is a way of getting more people in to the games that I like, rather than, like that's not really a serious puzzle game.
Well, honestly, the brilliant thing that the creator of Wordle did was make it so easy to share how you did without spoiling the solution of the puzzle.
Right. Yeah, like
that was brilliant. That's how it spread. That's
Yeah.
how everybody found out about it. People posting these weird little like series of green and yellow boxes and like, what does that mean? Oh, it's this. Okay.
My favorite game was looking at other people's boxes and trying to guess their words.
Yes.
Yeah. The worst series ever, though, is when you would hit a word where, like, you got most of the letters, but you're missing one letter, and there's, like, a couple dozen words that fit that pattern.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
That's how my streak
yeah.
broke. Yeah.
That's how I lost my streak, is one of those days.
Yeah.
No.
Where, like, oops, I didn't guess the correct one of these words.
I was like, there are 5 different words that this could be.
Yeah, that you could get out of that if you aren't playing on hard mode, because you
Yeah.
can just find a word with a bunch of those letters and figure out which one's right.
Just felt like cheating.
Yeah. The thing is, though, like, it led me to have a word that I started with every day.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the time I started with arise.
I love the
Yep.
the debates about what the best word to start with is.
I started with stare.
Ratio.
I actually started with a rise too.
Me too.
That's hilarious.
That's kind of crazy.
I mean, it's 3 vowels and 2 of the standard first 5 consonants.
Yep. That's
Yeah.
how I landed on it too. It was like, I want to knock out as many vowels as I can in a single word.
Yeah, I mean, there's a reason Wheel of Fortune started giving everybody RSTNLE just by default.
This is why this is the same reason I went with ratio.
Yeah,
I mean,
for
there's a
rise
lot of
insta-
words that fit that pattern. So
Yeah. I would also rely on Ouija too if I needed to, if a rise didn't turn out very good at first.
Mm-hmm.
a lot of times I would do arise and then mouth and then see what I got after that. Anyway, I feel like it's an interesting cultural touchstone that people will wonder what those pictograms mean in the future.
Mm-hmm.
It's a very fun game.
Kirby and the Forgotten Land.
Oh man, this game was great this year. It's sort of the first Kirby I've ever gotten into. I think this was on Ash. Was this on your list as well?
It was, in fact, because this is the best Kirby game to have released since Planet Robobot back on the 3DS.
Oh, and I didn't play Planet Robobot, so for me, this is the best Kirby game of all time.
I think this is better than Robobot.
Yeah, like, it's very fun. It's doing a lot of interesting things with the Kirby. It's doing it in a 3D space, and Kirby translates really well to 3D. Has Kirby been in 3D before?
No, this is Kirby's first full 3D game.
So wild.
There was one on the, they've been doing 2.5D since the N64.
Okay.
And they were there have been several plans for 3D games. Like the core idea that became this game was in one of the sub games in one of the 3DS games. I want to say it was one of the 3DS games, something like that. But yeah, this is new territory.
But yes, it's Kirby on a post-apocalyptic planet. All of the humans are gone. You don't know where they are, and all that's left are the animals. But there are humans. Have there been humans in other Kirby games?
Yes.
There's a human in 64.
There's the girl with the paintbrush.
Yep. And also the Magus sisters are human-like, kind of. It's unclear what they are, along with Susie and Holman. There have been humans in the Kirby series before.
But you're doing the standard Kirby thing where you are going around and you are eating enemies and you are assuming their powers, and then eventually you're upgrading their powers, and their movesets can be rather impressive. Like at the start, my fire breath would just allow me to spit a flame of fire. Later on, I was able to have dragon wings and fly, like charge through the air in a flight pattern while on fire. And like my fire left a massive dot on any enemy that I attacked with it, which was very useful for certain bosses who I wanted to attack from a distance and then be dodging most of the time to let that fire dot kill them. Or you could have Sword Link, and or Sword Kirby, one of which was like Link and one of which is like Meta Knight. It was very cool.
Yeah, the ability upgrades were also brand new for this one. That was a really cool idea to see executed.
And the other thing that was unique is the mouthful mode, which is a terrible name for an ability, but basically Kirby eats something so large that he sort of becomes a skin over top of it and controls it. So Kirby eats a car and becomes a car. And it's just like a car with Kirby on it. Like completely covering the car. Kirby is completely stretched out because he can't actually consume that much, apparently.
Did you like putting Mario's cap on things?
Yeah, right?
It's sort of the same thing.
Sort of the same thing. And then you get to solve a bunch of different environmental puzzles and look for hidden secrets. So many hidden secrets. They're the hidden secrets the game tells you about, and then apparently the hidden secrets the game doesn't tell you about. I have never naturally stumbled across any of the actually hidden stuff. I've only stumbled across the stuff that is hidden, but they intend for you to find.
Random hell rooms have been a tradition going back a long ways, and they tend to be very hidden.
Like, I don't know, maybe you can get out of bounds of this area and go off to a like tiny pixel over there, and that takes you to a new room. What's in that room? It's a surprise. The game's ending is epic and awesome and goes so much harder than I expected a Kirby game to go.
I mean, don't Kirby games usually end like that?
Oh yeah,
Yep.
I love it.
Wow.
I do think Robobot's ending actually does go harder than this one, but that's the only one. Kirby has a long tradition of basically killing gods at the end of the game.
You thought this was a game about a cute little pink puffball, and actually, this is about attacking and dethroning God.
Wow,
Man,
this
Kirby's
definitely
an
sounds like
elder
a game I
god,
should
right?
play.
Oh yeah, it's really good. The ending, so it's also exception. It feels very anime in the even with like you get through the first level and it's like, all right, now it's time for the OVA. Like let's have or the anime cutscene opening complete with like a J-pop song that's gonna go over top of Kirby driving through this like ruined world. So
Wow.
good.
Yeah, I've never actually played a Kirby game. I looked at it and I was like, oh, maybe at some point I will give this a try. And now that is definitely kind of like shifting a little more into, I think I will try this sooner than maybe I thought.
Yeah, I haven't played this yet, but I'm sure I will because if nothing else, my son is interested in playing it, so I'll pick it up at some point.
Very good.
It's a great game to play with your son. Me and my son played through it, and up until the final Coliseum, it's pretty reasonable. And then it's time for you to go to the final Coliseum. And wow, do they decide to ramp that up. The there are food vendors that sell buffs. One of those buffs is a second health bar. It's useful.
It does sound useful.
It's like a complete second health bar. It's pretty important for some of these fights. The two, when you see a butterfly, things are about to get real. And then the final time you encounter the final fight of the Colosseum is, I still haven't beaten it. I still don't quite understand what I'm supposed to do. Probably need to be learning how to dodge roll better. But there's also like it is also interesting. So there's like the Waddle Dees you are trying to rescue, and there are a bunch of hidden Waddle Dees in all of the levels, and then there are a bunch of bonus Waddle Dees on all of the boss fights, and you get those by beating the bosses in different interesting ways, or doing interesting things in the boss battles, which does give it a decent amount of replayability, which is important if you're going to eventually do boss rushes.
And you probably are.
Yeah.
The game has 3 of them. A rather easy one that they sort of show you immediately, like about halfway through the game. A much harder one that they requires you to beat the game. And then the one that requires you to almost 100% the game. That is completely unreasonable and will always be completely unreasonable because Kirby games like to do this.
So, next game is, what if you maybe wanted to start a cult devoted to a dead god?
I love how many of us selected this one, at least as a runner-up.
It's a great game.
It's really
yeah.
good. Yeah.
I need to go back and finish it. It is a very good game.
And it's so, for what it is, it's so charming.
It's it's one of those things where the base building is so addictive and fun, and like you're trying to like, oh, just get these dumb cultists to like figure out how to take care of themselves, and like the different ways you can play it is also interesting because like I was trying to make sure no one died except by my hands, and so I was opposed to the natural end of my followers' lives. I resurrected a lot of them only to then kill them myself to claim their power, which they seem very happy about. But yes, the game had a lot going on in it.
As we have not yet said, this is Cult of the Lamb, by the way.
Cult of the Lamb, right? Sorry.
We're bad about not actually mentioning the titles of games sometimes.
Cult of the Lamb.
Yeah. Nothing worse than a dissenting cult member.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Well, that's what the jail is for.
This game, like Grace mentioned that it was super charming, and this game's art style elevates it from, honestly, if like with a different art style, like I'm imagining the like gritty, realistic art style, this game would be like creepy and not very much fun. Like it'd be kind of miserable, but like the art style and the weird fun of it is it absolutely elevates it from where it otherwise would be.
Yeah, I mean, the adorable enthusiasm of all of your cultists makes it fun when you're like, okay, I'm gonna sacrifice you now. Whee!
Yeah, it's like, yay!
They get grabbed by the tentacle from the nether realm, and they look a little nervous, but then they smile at the end, right before they get shunted off.
I mean, I feel like with a different art style, you'd end up with Binding of Isaac, which is weird and creepy.
Oh, I went to like, I don't even know. Like if you had like a real people aesthetic,
That would be a bit much, I think.
oh,
Yeah.
it would be way
Yuck.
too much. It would just not be fun.
Yeah.
Be like, this is gross and weird.
Yeah, being cutesy forest animals who are just real happy and excited about the whole thing like that. Yeah.
I would love to know if the game concept or the art style was born first.
Yeah.
Because I could totally see either one. I could totally see somebody's like napkin art becoming like, oh no, we've got something here. This is incredible. Let's make a game. Or some people like looking at what they know is a compelling gameplay design and being like, but we can't we can't just do this straight. We have to do something else.
Yeah, I mean, because like you're teetering very close to one of the murder sim games from the 90s.
Yeah, but instead it's super charming. It's it's cute. It's fun.
Yeah, the game, I keep talking about how charming it is, but the gameplay is incredibly addictive and fun, and not like the base building part is really engaging, but the sort of dungeon delving side of it is also really fun. And that was the piece that I was more nervous about, but actually had a fantastic time with it.
Well, they do really
it's like
well.
A shockingly good Zelda game.
Well, they do really well, switching you between the two often enough that you don't, neither overstays its welcome.
I would say it felt a little bit more Hades to me than Zelda, just with the amount of speed and the dash and like the chaotic fighting. Zelda games are a lot more ponderous usually than this. It did feel very good, very much like a Hades game, which I really appreciate.
For me, it was very much what if ActRaiser, but instead Zelda instead of a 2D game.
Yeah, I mean, I've been jonesing for something that gave me those good Hades vibes, and this really met it.
All of the weapons, even the weapons that I thought I was gonna hate, I ended up loving. I think my least favorite weapon was the axe. I thought I was gonna hate the hammer, but then I was like, oh no, this is great. Its area is so big.
Yeah, there were definitely weapons that were outside of my usual comfort zone that I ended up playing with a lot because they just felt good here.
I'm also gonna shout out if you ever were watching a Twitch stream or you followed a Twitch community that decided to play this, the Twitch integration is incredible. Like whenever you have a new follower come on, you're able to like open a raffle and the people in chat can like enter themselves in to create a follower with their name, and then they get to customize that follower. Very, very fun, very cool stuff.
Wow.
So I had a cute little green fox for one of the streams I was watching. I apparently became the morality police at one point.
So we're down to the last game on this side of the show, and I have to say, for me, this year has been extremely devoted to Path of Exile. It's kind of a mind virus that set up residence inside my brain and is living there rent-free. I have tried to get into this game so many times in the past, and this is the year that it just kind of clicked finally.
If you have been listening to this show for far too long, I did talk about Path of Exile when we did the Diablo 2 show.
Yeah. And that discussion prompted me to try it again and bounce again.
Same.
I feel like
I can't remember how many times I bounced.
Like there's evidence of me playing in at least 6 leagues prior to Sentinel where I had attempted to play a character.
It's not the most approachable of games.
No, it's violently anti-new players.
Like they don't want
they
new players.
really need to fix that.
I do feel like we have talked quite at length about the problems with this game, and this is the games of the year. So let's talk about all of the things that why do we continue putting up with all of the pain and heartbreak? Because this game is so much fun.
Yeah, it's
working. It's so good.
It's a remarkably fun ARPG.
There's so many different game modes. And like, it is shocking how complete every one of the game modes is.
Like you could probably find a thing that you would like to do in the game. You've got like 15 choices.
Like, I enjoy Delve. I have been playing a lot of Delve. I can pretty much never leave Delve if I want to, other than, going up top to get some Delve juice to keep going. Like, Heist, I could never leave heist and have a completely full game experience. It means Sanctum. There's people that only do maps right now just to get sockets so that they can base or to saved times to go into Sanctum. Like
Sanctum and like I'm so hyped about Sanctum. Like again, we've talked about the tuning, but I'm so hyped about Sanctum because Sanctum is for me the thing that other game modes weren't giving me. Like Sanctum suits my play style in a way that a bunch of other things just don't. Because like I've tried Delve and I didn't enjoy Delve because Delve wants you to be ultra tanky and be in one place, and I want to move super super fast and blip around all over the place, covering huge amounts of ground. And so I've got a game mode for that, which is cool.
Yeah, I'm hoping Sanctum gets turned into a long-running game mode.
I sure hope so.
I have a feeling it will. It seems very well received.
Also, unlike the last two mechanics, it got its own NPC.
That too. Yeah, they recorded a lot of voice work and a new person that's actually, in your hideout. I think she's not in your hideout.
She's not in your
She will
hideout.
be. She will be.
At some point. Yeah.
There's a relic locker. That's in your hideout. But yeah, it's a really fun ARPG with just the most absurdly wide build space you can imagine. Like there are so many different abilities that you can use in so many different ways to build different character types, and yes, it's if you go trying to build something just on your own when you're not experienced at the game, you're probably going to come up with something that can maybe make it to the end of the story and then not much further. But you do over time learn what abilities go well with other things and what you need to look for in a build. And I kind of feel like at this point maybe I could just design, go into a character and build it on my own without a guide and do reasonably well.
I think I would want a path of building it first.
Yes.
So that I could come up with a game plan first.
Yeah. No, I would be planning it out ahead of time. Absolutely. But yeah, and this season I'm actually I have a character that I feel like is in really good shape, and am thinking of maybe making an alt and just to try something else out. Not because I feel like, not because I'm disappointed in the way my current character is doing or how it plays. Just, try something different. Maybe make something that is a little bit better at Sanctum.
Yeah, that's ultimately the motivation for me rolling my second character, was to have something that worked a little bit better in Sanctum. And now I like that character too. And it is now my mapping and bossing character. And I am mostly just doing delve and heist on the Righteous Fire Juggernaut, and have started screwing around with a third and a fourth character.
And the thing I was thinking about with builds is if you have a build that can only get to the end of the story and not really a lot further, that's fine. It's still fun.
Yeah.
That's the thing that really impresses me about this game more than Diablo 3, which is, a longtime crush of mine, is I actually enjoy playing through the story more here now than I did playing through the story in Diablo 3. I mean, I really kind of enjoy getting through the acts.
Yeah, I'll definitely give it that. I, in Diablo 3, will just ignore the story as much as I possibly can at this point. But some of that is also just the number of times I've played through it. And this is still, even though I have leveled a bunch of characters at this point, it's still significantly more fresh for me. It is also more interesting, though. It has, I don't know, it's got some more interesting characters and just has a few more interesting story beats for sure.
And it does a reasonably good job of not giving me parts that I hate, which is nice. I can't think of
more hidden footprints.
Yeah, part of what makes it work is that it mostly avoids having gimmicky high narrative stuff, which makes it less varied when you're playing through it the first time, and it makes the story feel a little thin, but also makes it a lot more replayable because you're not like, all right, time to do the escort quest. Ugh.
Well,
Whatever.
it's a particularly nice touch that for all of the quests, almost all of the quests, you could kind of just go do them without ever actually talking to the person and picking up the quest, which is odd if you're playing through it for the first time, but for replayability, it's wonderful.
Yeah, super nice. Because, like, I'm in Act 2 now. I need to go do these things, and I can do them in any particular order.
Yeah.
And if it's ever going to require you to bounce back to a place, it tends to put a teleport right at where you need to go.
Yeah, I mean, I forget how long my first like full story playthrough was, but my second was like a tenth as long. It was so much quicker. Just was like doing stuff, just go through and do things.
Yeah, I started a brand new character on Friday, and in about an hour and a half, I was in Act 5, just zipping along, doing the stuff. I will never reach the speedrunner level of, hour and a half for the entire game, but
Yeah.
I've gotten way faster at it. I was watching a playthrough the other day that was an hour long of someone speedrunning the game. Now, granted, they were doing like a 5-way, and doing some nonsense where they were turning stuff in out of sequence, but everybody was getting credit for it. But still, an hour for the entire game. I think the first time I played through the campaign when I was like actually doing Sentinel, it was probably like a week for me to get through the campaign.
It still takes me more than an hour to get through Act 1 on most characters.
Yeah, I definitely went a lot faster this time than the last couple of times. In particular, I broke myself of I want to kill every single thing on the map.
But,
Yeah, I still have that problem.
Yeah.
Because that's absolutely what I would do in Diablo, and that's what I was
Right.
doing here. And if you do that, you very rapidly hit the point at which you're basically gaining no XP on a map.
Yes.
And then
Right.
yeah, because there is a band within which you get good XP, and once you're outside that, it drops precipitously. So
I think the only thing that like I pretty much kill 100% of the time is if there's a pack of blues that I come across, because those are worth so much more XP
yeah,
than everything else.
yeah. Like I know I still didn't go as fast as the serious people, because apparently you should only be level 12 when you've beaten Mervale.
Yeah, no, I think I was like 20 when I beat Mervale.
I think I was 18.
You need to be level 12 to equip the gems you get when entering Mervale's cavern.
I mean, I've watched the sequence enough times to know what I should be doing, but I don't want to care about that.
Mhm.
The other thing that I really like is how much faster a given character in a league is. Because it's like, oh, you don't have to wait for drops or wait for these various parts of your build to come online. They can just happen. Just like, oh, you need these gems, you can have them.
Yeah, once you've got your first character up, like you could use them to buy the gems. You've any Atlas work they've done, that's for your entire account. You don't have to do that again.
Well, and we also do a lot of sharing of resources, which helps a little bit too,
It is very helpful.
especially when it comes to like filling out maps that you don't have or stuff like that.
Well, and Bell acts as our market factor
I know.
for those of us who don't want to engage with that.
I showed Ash a picture of one of my trade tabs, and it is shocking the number of sales that I have made. Because like the other day, it was loaded completely full, and now it's about half empty. That's like a whole thing I never expected to get into at all. Like, but apparently I am.
You do it so we don't have to.
It's really not that painful, though, to be honest. Like, it works almost as though it were an automated system. Like, there's this weird culture around trade, and there's a specific sequence of things, and once you figure it out, you just follow the pattern, and it doesn't matter that, like, I speak English, and the guy I'm trading with is Korean, and we're all playing together.
I started trading in Sentinel League because it wasn't like when we first jumped in to get the stuff I needed, because I could not get a 6-link item to save my life, and that was the only way I could get one. But like, I played Warframe.
This is less cumbersome than
Yeah.
trading in Warframe.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is.
See, I never engaged with trading in Warframe either.
it's not good, but it's easy. Like, it's one of those things. It's one of those things like random queuing in FF14, where yes, technically other players are involved, but 99% of the time they might as well not be. Like, the form is so well understood that you don't have to be like, oh, I have to figure out how to interact with a person. Like, not really.
Yeah, you go to the website, it sends a formatted message in the player's native language saying, this is where your item is in the trade tab. This person's willing to pay this much for it.
A change they made this year is that it even actually highlights that
Yeah.
item.
Yeah, it's great. Like, I will hover over my stash tab, wait for somebody to accept the party invite so I can see it highlight the item they asked for. And I open a trade window. Well, they come to my hideout. I open a trade window. They give me money. I give them the item. We both verify, and it's all over in like seconds.
Quote unquote money.
Well, yeah, like the thing that
Orbs.
passes as currency in this game.
Weird thing about Path of Exile, there is no gold or gold equivalent.
Everything that you can trade is usable in some way.
I do feel like we should maybe get another guild stash tab and set it for things for Bell to sell. Because I've started dropping stuff in the guild stash just because, like, that whatever this is, Age of whatever says this is worth like 5 chaos. I guess I shouldn't just sell it for a couple of shards of alteration.
Yeah, Thalen gave me an item the other day that was worth a divine, and it took me about a day and a half to flip it, but I did.
It's like, I'm not going to use this tailoring orb. It's supposedly worth a whole lot.
Oh, a
You sell it.
tailoring orb.
Yeah.
Harbingers are weird. This game is weird. It's systems all the way down. I kind of love it for that.
It's like every 3 months, the game releases some major new system. Not all of them stick around, but a lot of them do. I did not realize how big of a year this was for the game until I watched somebody's year in review video. And like most of the systems that I'm engaged with got major revamps this year.
The downside of this is that if you're trying to figure out how to do a particular thing, you really need to try and find a video from within the past few months about it, so that it's just not just completely inaccurate.
I mean, that's like, we talked about this, I don't know, when we were last recorded a couple weeks ago. The biggest problem that you're going to have as a player is the fact that once you're indoctrinated, people that are making the guides for this game seem to have forgotten what it was like to play this game when they were brand new.
So much jargon. So much jargon.
Yeah, it's
so many assumptions about what you should already know.
Yes.
Which was definitely something I struggled with, but I'm still learning. There's still so much about this game that I don't understand, but also there's enough that I understand well enough that I can have a great time with it.
Yeah. And every so often, like, a new thing like clicks into place in my brain. I'm like, oh, that's how that works.
That's been me with Delve. Like, seriously, my romance with Delve has been that I finally understand like what I'm doing down here. Like, I understood enough at a surface level, but now I really get these systems.
Yeah, you're down there to murder a lot of things and hunt for fossils.
Well, like, I had completely avoided betrayal as a League mechanic because it is the most cumbersome looking thing ever.
It's there's like it's the image the image for betrayal to like show you the status of the thing is literally that one meme of the guy in front of the conspiracy board.
Charlie from Always Sunny.
It's that. And it's just like there's like red strings and green strings going between different people, and like what does all of this mean?
Who's Pepe Sylvia?
Understand this person is in charge of this section, and what does that mean? Like, why? Like, I can, if I execute them, they're no longer in charge, somebody else is in charge. Do I want to do that? I don't know.
Like that league mechanic can be understood on multiple different levels.
Yes.
The level that I am on is you want to leave the person that is the highest ranking to last so that you can bargain with them and get the best possible items to drop at that moment.
And get good stuff, yeah.
Like there's a whole other thing where you're trying to arrange to
items,
get...
I want intel.
I mean, that too.
Which is similarly like rank them up as much as possible so you can throw them in the brig and get more intel.
Get more intel out of them, yeah.
Yeah, today I killed my first leader. I had never gotten enough intel to actually take down the leader in the boss fight, and that was an interesting encounter.
Yeah, I killed the big bad today. Sadly,
same.
I got the flask out of her, so I didn't get what Ash needs.
Yeah, I got the flask when I killed her as well, but it was, I still have no thorough understanding of the system, but again, it's something that I can engage with enough to like get to a cool boss battle. Like I know enough that like, well, if I just keep bargaining with the right people and murdering the right people, then I'll eventually get enough intel to track down their boss. And it was fun. And I know that there is a whole other depth to this that I could be optimizing. But in the meantime, this is functional and like I got some cool loot.
Well, at a very basic level, like it's a good source of loot for building. Like it's
and also in the very shortest term, it's where the best crafted mods come from.
Yep.
Because when you capture or interrogate or whatever these people, a lot of times they will drop items with veiled mods. And when you unveil that mod, you then get a slightly weaker version of that as a craftable mod. And some of those are really, really good. Like there's one particular one that I am still hunting for because it only comes off of one of them in particular. But then also,
yes, the game is filled with systems that are multifaceted like this.
Yes, like this is one of the most complicated ones, and like is very important to engage with if you intend to craft items. Like it has lots and lots of things that are useful for crafting items.
But also, if you're playing with friends that are engaging with this system, you can just trade the item to them and have them put the mod on it for you.
You can.
Everything is effectively tradable other than quest items.
You can also, if you don't need access to the crafting workbench that you gained access to after killing a particular person, you can sell that access to somebody. Have them join your group, and then they come into the instance where you already defeated the boss, and they can use the crafting bench. Apparently, this is very lucrative.
Tiny's Test is the weirdest minigame in the game.
It is, but boy, you can get some really good stuff out of it.
Yeah, you basically like you put a white item, aka a normal item, in, and you are giving a large amount of crafting resources, but only given, what, a minute?
30 seconds. You are given 30 seconds to just throw as much crafting currency onto it as you can.
That's hilarious.
To get what you want.
Well, like the one today was like a stack of 30 divines. So you basically you got like just enough to turn it magic and then reroll the magic item a few times, and then a single regal orb. And then you could exalt it a few times and then divine it.
Yeah, so basically it's dependent on which of the sections he's in. Like I had him in transportation, so for me his workbench had one alteration to turn it into a yellow item, and then 200 chaos orbs, and I think 200 exalted, or no, 200 blessed orbs. Not blessed. The one that lets you
Divines?
reroll all the numbers. Is
Yeah,
Divines.
divines.
So yeah, 200 chaos, 200 divines, and 1 vol orb.
Yep, it's a crazy system. Like, and it's so good. And the thing is the game knows that you're not prepared to do this, so they always put a crafting or like a stash in the same dungeon, so you can go to your stash and pull whatever you want out.
Yeah, because you're getting a lot of loot out of this dungeon at the end, because every one of the people that was part of the that was part of the organization has their own room with something in it. The one that really paid off for me was a bench that you put a yellow item on it, and it removes 1 affix from the item and replaces it with a veiled affix. And so I now have a wand that has 39% increased spell damage, 92% increased spell damage, 27 increased damage over time, and 27% chaos damage over time multiplier.
Oh my god, that's nuts.
It was a noticeable upgrade over what I was using.
It's just like every time you turn around, there's one of these systems that maybe you didn't understand it very well the first time, but upon repeated attempts, you gain new knowledge out of it. And there's a bunch of things that you can do in the game that's super chill, and there's a bunch of super try-hard systems.
Mm-hmm.
And you get to choose whichever one you want to engage with, because there's not really any fixed end goal. I've respected my Atlas of Worlds 4 or 5 times this season, trying for different mechanics. Like,
yeah. Do you want to collect body parts off monsters to make a Frankenstein's monster so that you can then murder it? You can
No, I do not.
I've been doing a deep dive on Metamorph. It is so good.
It's a lot. Yeah, it's a lot better now that Arch Nemesis mods are gone.
I really want to mess with it. I think I have enough of the fancy body parts to make something really fun.
I need a liver. I've got like 3 of everything else and no livers.
Yeah, I mean, you can do the cell body parts 3 at a time to get a different kind of body part, but like realistically, in order to sustain it, you need to spec into it in your Atlas.
I mean, that's true for any of them.
There's a trait in the Atlas that basically means I'm encountering a lot of rogue metamorphs that just appear in my map.
I hear that's the best way to die in hardcore.
I'm sure it is.
It is.
But the other one is like anytime I face a metamorph, so long as I've used a single unique, I get 2 body parts off of it. So that ends up adding them up quickly. So even if it's not the ones you want, you're getting enough surplus to trade them in for other body parts.
Oh wow, there is a node that decreases the damage and life that they have. That's
to make it a little bit easier.
Yeah.
But if you have that, it negatively impacts the stat that lets them double all the resources. So it's a catch-22. Like, I mean, can you handle them? I can handle them on my SRS build, so I have not chosen that trait.
There's a few of those. Blight's got one of those too. Like, this is a node that makes Blight actually go faster. This makes Blight harder.
Yes. Can you handle Blight going faster? Blight, for those who've never experienced it, is basically tower defense.
It is tower defense.
Are you in a trap build? Are you in some build that can set up a field before you actually start doing things? Blight's great.
Yeah. Some builds do great with Blight. There are specific ways the Blight path goes that I do phenomenal at. If there's one going off one side and one going off the other side, no, I'm not. I'm going to fail that Blight. I can murderate things on a fixed path really well.
Mm-hmm. You know what gets really insane if you have them in the same map? Blight and Beyond.
Oh no.
It's a bad time.
Beyond is great. Like, I love Beyond added to a map. Okay, so for anyone who has no clue what any of these words mean, these were all League mechanics.
We should maybe take a deep dive into these at some other point.
Yeah, these were all League mechanics that have stuck around and joined what they call Standard, which is the non-rotating version of the game. But yeah, like it's madness. Like I remember the first time we played in Sentinel, just the great unpacking of these mechanics was overwhelming. Like every time I turned around, I was getting introduced to a brand new NPC.
Yeah, it's funny looking back at the first time I fully like played through the story and was like, holy crap, what the heck? This is yet another system. What is happening? And then get to maps, like, holy cow.
There's still more.
There's still more.
Like another half dozen that I haven't seen yet.
What the heck is this one? How does anyone understand any of this? But now it's great.
Yeah, like a year later, I understand most of them or understand them well enough to know whether or not I care. And like the thing that I've learned this year is it is entirely dependent upon the build you're running as to whether or not you should care about specific mechanics.
Yeah. Some of them you want really good AoE damage. Some of them you need really good single target damage. Like it's Like I'm really good at delve with my current character because my character puts a dot on a thing that then spreads when that thing dies, and so I just like put it on a thing and then I run along with the crawler as everything just pops in front of me. It's very entertaining.
Yeah, RF is real good at delve as well.
Which is righteous fire.
Yes.
Yes. Sorry. I'm doing it. I'm doing the thing I complained about.
You're doing the jargon, Bell.
You are.
I know. It's
righteous.
The game is too complicated not to chunk it up into other concepts.
Yeah, basically righteous fire is I set myself on fire, so I am always burning, and also everything gets near me also burns.
It's a bad ideas class, but like you have to build it so tanky that if you can handle burning yourself, nothing else can handle or can really bother you either.
The interesting side effect of being on fire is that all of your fire spells do a lot more damage. So some builds don't actually scale the burning damage of righteous fire itself. Still use this buff because if you're casting other fire spells, well, more fire is better.
Anyway, but yeah, like that's. I know, like Kodra said, we've complained about a lot of aspects of this game, but there's a lot there that's great and it's truly enjoyable to explore. And that, I think, brings us to a close on the first one of these shows. I think I like this recording them as two separate shows.
Yeah.
This was still long, but it wasn't that long.
Right, exactly. Like, we're going to have another one of these, but like, this was a reasonable form of long. Anyway, any final thoughts about anything?
Thanks for not making me stay up until 1 a.m. for this.
Well, hopefully you enjoyed the show, and we'll return next week for the second half. Happy New Year, and good night.
Happy New Year. Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
Good night.
See ya.